Hi, everybody. Tonight we're going to pick up the story of Daniel where we left off yesterday. King Darius had just signed a law, and the law said that for 30 days, for a month, nobody could ask anybody in his kingdom for anything except him. That everybody that way would be depending on him, and they'd realize that he was the big man. Well, that included God. Nobody could ask God for help for anything. And three people had sort of cooked up this plan, and they thought they would trap Daniel with it. Daniel was a man who prayed, and who prayed a lot, and who took all of his problems to God in prayer. And that was what made him a good ruler on behalf of the king. It's what helped him do his job well, that he would pray. Well, where we left it off was they went to Daniel's house, and they were going to tell him what was going on. And they did. It says this: when Daniel first heard about the law, he didn't know what to do. Maybe I should stop praying. After all, the law is only for 30 days, he thought. But then Daniel knew that it would be wrong to stop praying to God. Well, said Daniel, if I put my trust in God, I'm sure he'll take care of me. That evening, Daniel knelt down and he said his prayers as usual. When the other rulers saw him pray, they ran to tell the king. King Darius, they cried, someone is breaking your law. The king wanted to know who it was. It's Daniel, they shouted. You must throw him to the lions. At that point, the king knew that he had been tricked. He knew that he had been tricked, and I'm sure he was not happy with the people that did it. And I'm sure he really wanted to throw them to the lions, but he was kind of caught, because if he passed this law and then he said, no, I'm not going to enforce the law, then it means other people later are going to say, we don't have to do anything the king says because it's not going to mean anything. So he did something he didn't want to do. So you have to be really careful when you say what you're going to do. If you make a promise, you better be very careful and think it through about what happens when you keep your promise, because keeping promises is important. You have to think ahead. And King Darius hadn't thought ahead of what might take place. And now he was tricked. He tried to think of a way that he could save Daniel, but he couldn't. He called Daniel and he said, you've broken the law and I can't help you. So the guards threw Daniel into the lion's den. And then Daniel did what he always had done. He prayed to God, and he asked for God's help. He did what he had always done. He asked God to take care of him. And God did. Remember the three men in the furnace, and King Nebuchadnezzar looked in and he said, oh, I see a fourth one in there, and it was an angel. Well, God sent an angel to help Daniel out. And the angel calmed the lions down and took care of them. And they left Daniel alone. I've got 3 dogs, and when my dogs bark, it doesn't matter what anybody else does, but if I calm them down, usually, not always, but usually, they calm down. And here's this angel that's calming the lions down, so that they won't hurt Daniel at all. Well, the king couldn't sleep that night because he was so worried about Daniel. And as soon as the sun came up, King Darius ran to see if his friend was still alive. And when the king got to the lion's den, he shouted down into it, "Daniel! Hey, Daniel! Has your God saved you? Are you safe, my friend?" "Yes, King Darius!" Daniel shouted back. "I'm alive! God sent an angel to close the mouths of the lions. I'm safe." Well, King Darius was happy. He ordered that Daniel be removed from the den. After all, the law said he would be thrown in. It didn't say he had to stay there till he was gone. So King Darius had his soldiers take Daniel out of the den, and they were very glad to see each other. And Daniel was safe because he had trusted God. And here they are, two friends back right where they belonged, being friends again. Right away, King Darius issued a new law. And this new law told everybody about God. And it also told how God had saved Daniel by protecting him from the lions. The king wanted everything that God had done to protect his friend. And Daniel continued on. He kept on praying, and he kept on listening to God. He kept on saying thank you when God answered his prayers, and he kept on listening to what God would say because he could trust him. And God knew he could trust Daniel too. That is how the story of Daniel ends. And it's a good place to stop for the night. See you tomorrow.